the numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host Bob Zerl. With me in Deadbug Studios is
Coach Nez.
Visit us at zpnetwork.com, zoixonline.com, at Facebook at the Nothing Shocking podcast community fan page, the Quad Cities Rock and Roll Junkies interest group. Check us out on Twitter at No Shock Pod. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, all your podcatchers, and listen to us at 2 p.m. Central on Rock Rage Radio. Is
Yes.
that the new time?
Yep, that's what it looks like.
Our guest this week is Keri Kelli.
How awesome was that interview?
A lot of fun. We had Ted Renner from Hong Kong Sleepover helping us out with that. Just a lot of fun. Keri has played with everybody, currently with Night Ranger, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. And, well, the big thing, the new album, A New Revenge.
Oh, yeah, New Revenge, which we've both been listening to. And not what you'd expect from, it's a super group. Keri Kelli, Tim Ripper Owens, a lot of former podcast guests.
Rudy Sarzo, James Kotek.
Yeah, we need to get Rudy Sarzo on. We'll
I've been trying.
I know. I've been trying too. It'll happen. But you would never with that, not that, I'm not saying it's be better than they are. It's not. It's just different than what they've done. It doesn't sound like Scorpions or anything Rudy Sarzo's played on or anything Tim Ripper Owens. It's very modern, very relevant, and not modern in that.
I think it's very refreshing sounding.
Yeah. Refreshing. Yeah, not modern in the repetitive
No,
sound.
no.
I'm not meaning like that, but it sounds relevant. I was really, and I hate saying shocked because even there, it's really a super group, whether he wants to admit it or not.
It's a super group. But
it's a hell of a record, so it's out there. It'll be in the show notes if you want to purchase that. But yeah, it was exciting to have him on, and I don't know, it's cool to have Ted here to be part of it too, even though he didn't say too much. We did a little bit.
He did a little bit. He likes to listen.
Our sponsors are...
Yeah. Ragged Records, Rock Island, Illinois. And right now, we don't know when they're coming back to Davenport, Iowa, because the store got totally demolished by the flood of the Mississippi River.
And it's still raining.
Yes, and the flood is going to come back again.
Right.
So Ragged Records, if you need to find Ragged Records, find them in Rock Island, Illinois, or you can also find them on eBay. Bob Harrington has a eBay store. Also, Legends Picks Guitar Picks out of Milan, Illinois, and Rockstar Picks.Rocks out of Queens, New York.
As always, I want to thank the band Hong Kong Sleepover for letting us use their music. You can pick up their new album at is it the HongKongSleepover.com or Amazon or any of their
CD,
Apple Music.
Yeah,
it's on
you can
there.
find it.
It's
yeah,
all the places you can buy music, it's there, at least online. And it's a great album. Pick up everything they've done. They're a great band. If you get a chance to see them live, do that.
They just played down in Indianapolis last
I
weekend.
saw that. It's pretty awesome. Coming to the Quad Cities, Ghost, October 8th. We don't need to promote that, but no, we don't get a lot of rock shows that are that big coming to our arena.
Did you purchase your tickets?
Yes.
I did too.
Are you standing or sitting?
I'm sitting.
Standing.
You're standing.
I don't realize how old I am yet. I'm at that in-between age where I still want to be down there on the floor as close as possible until I get there and realize, oh, God, this sucks. But there's an off chance I take my 7-year-old if I can't find someone to go with me. So we'll see. I'm trying to convince some of my hipster friends to watch real music.
Oh, there you go. I purchased my tickets on the pre-sale on Thursday. Ticketmaster sent me their password code, and I did, and I got the seats that I kind of wanted.
I actually did the pre-sale on Wednesday. I didn't need to because I got floor seats. I could have waited till Friday because they did.
Sure, yeah.
But I thought about getting really good seats, but I didn't want to pay extra for it. I liked the idea of just kind of paying the regular price. And I don't know. I'm still stuck in my head. The closer I can get, the better. And I know it's not necessary. Sometimes the further away it is, it's kind of cool to see the whole stage show, especially with a band like Ghost. But we'll see. I mean, I will probably just hang out in the middle section anyway, just to avoid the crowd.
No, I'm excited because I kind of got the same seat similar to where I saw the Misfits, far
cool.
back in the horseshoe, but straight on at the stage. And you just get to kind of sit back and just relax and watch the show and not have. When I stand up during shows, my back hurts and
that's the thing. All my friends have bad backs, and they don't. My brother, he didn't want to stand, and luckily when we went to Chicago Open Air, we were able to get. There was a big barrier in the middle, so we were able to lean up against the barrier, kind of straight on. So we'd kind of on the floor, but leaning up against this barrier, right in the center of the floor. So we got perfect shot of the whole show. So it was great.
Awesome.
Got to watch the Cult all by myself.
Yes, you did.
I'll tell you what, though, I'm listening to the Cult more than anything right now from that show. I didn't come away with any. I'm not listening to anybody else. That's what's been kind of been playing on my phone lately. I just got in the mood for it.
Well, and I'll say this, and I'll say this over and over again. The Love album, the Electric album, and the Sonic Temple album were just such epic albums. And if there are people out here that haven't really discovered the Cult, and you want to find some really great albums, those 3 albums. And they just kind of progressed in their sound up into, to Sonic Temple. So
yeah, it was funny. My brother said, I can't believe they played the same song twice. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm pretty sure he got She Sells Sanctuaries and Love Removal Machine confused as the same. And I could see not knowing either song and seeing it live. Some of their songs do kind of, if you aren't familiar, I could see you running together because they did a lot of soloing too. But yeah. But we really need to get to Keri Kelli because it's going to storm bad here, and we need to get our next interview going.
Yes, we do.
Enjoy the interview with Keri Kelli.
Good night. Hey, Keri, are you there?
I am here, man. What's going on? Sorry.
Oh, hey. Thanks for calling in. Before we start, I would like to introduce you to my co-hosts tonight, Bob Zerl and Ted Renner.
Hello.
All right, dude. Hey, guys, what's going on?
How's it going, man?
Hey, everything is cool, man. I'm just running around here, man. My day, I kind of got a little jacked up. I had a meeting that went longer, and now all of a sudden my parentals want to go out to dinner for Mother's Day, so I'm trying to accommodate them as well. But all good, man. We're making it happen.
All right, fantastic. So, first of all, this is kind of on the lighter side of things. So we've been doing this podcast for about 3 years, and I think for the last 2 years, I've been trying to find you. A contact information, and I'm not going to divulge the information to our audience, but it was really hard trying to find a contact information for you. I know it's hidden within, but my goodness, it was like the last-ditch effort.
Well, yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, I don't really have too much of that. Some people have contact me or send in a form, email form and things like that. I mean, I just really don't do that. I have so many things that I'm trying to do, music or outside of music, actually, that, man, I'm just too jammed up, man, and too busy. I mean, I hate to say that, but you kind of understand what I mean. I mean, I can't always be people sending in tons of shit, but I'm glad we hooked up. Let's put it that way, man. I'm happy to be here with you.
How do you keep from burning out? Is it just the fact that you're doing different things, or is it, I mean, what is the trick?
Yeah, man. I mean, I just, I've always been a really hard worker, I mean, some people just meander, through life or in the music business or whatever. And, I mean, my parents always instilled in me to work hard and like my dad, I mean, he worked for 40 years at the same job, woke up every day at 4:30 in the morning and worked. And I mean, it's just kind of like in me. So I've always done that, you know, and I was, you know, doing recording or writing songs or then playing in different bands and things like that. And then, you know, the last like 11 years I've had my craft beer restaurants. We're building a brewery right now. And then, as I said, I mean, I just had a 3-hour meeting. I thought it was only going to be about an hour and a half, but a big meeting with another music guy, a music manager. He's managed a bunch of bands, Nickelback and things like that, but about another venture that we're going to be working on that's actually in the restaurant world. So I mean, I'm always just moving and shaking and trying to do it, man.
No, you've got to be the busiest guy, the busiest musician I've ever read on, man. Like, to look at everything, you know, it's like, what band haven't you played in would be a shorter list, I think, man.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that was, you know, I mean, some things were kind of just, you know, short-lived, or I was helping out, and I was just kind of got added to the list of you were in this band or in that band, and maybe I was playing with them for 2 or 3 months, but yeah, man, again, it's just about, you know, I mean, I'm from California my whole life. I live in Orange County, which is like kind of south of LA, but you know, I grew up with a lot of the guys in that kind of late 80s type of scene. I was like a younger kid, like the guys in Warrant, for instance. I mean, Joey, the guitar player, his parents still live right down the street, literally the block over from my parents. And so, I mean, I've known Joey since I was probably 12 or 13 years old. He's probably like 5 years older than me, 6 years older than me. But so I was kind of like always this little kid hanging around. But then as I got a little bit older, you know, I just kind of knew a lot of people, and I guess I played good enough to where they wanted me to help them or, you know, be involved. And I guess, like I said, again, I just worked hard, played my best, and did the homework and got along with people. That's what I've always tried to do.
So I guess, what is it, early 2019, late 2018, you and James Kotek, Ripper Owens, and Rudy Sarzo release a new Revenge debut album. Was it late 2018 or was it 2019? I can't remember.
It was this year actually. The record, I mean, they released a couple little, I think, teaser tracks and things like that. You know, lead tracks on the good old interwebs and things like that. But the album actually came out in Japan. It came out, I believe, on the 21st of March of this year, 2019, or 22nd, and I think it came out here, whatever, like 7 days later. So the end of March. So it's been out like 6 weeks or something like that. 5 weeks, 6 weeks.
I guess the big question is you know, obviously it's a supergroup or the term called, and some people like it, some people don't, but how did this all come together?
Yeah, supergroup. I mean, I don't, nothing, you know, to do with the project, but I mean, I hate to call it super, right? I mean, if there was a band with like, I don't even know, if like Dio was singing and you had Jimi Hendrix on guitar and, you know, John Bonham on drums and whoever else, I mean, that would be a supergroup to me. But, yeah, I know people like to always use those terms. But basically what it was, to be honest with you, we've all known each other. I've known Tim for about 10 years or a little longer. I've known James for like 30 years. I've known Rudy for maybe about 20 years-ish, 25 years maybe. And all those guys love to play music and create music. And James and I had the idea back in, like, I think 2013 or 14, and I literally just called up Tim. We said, who do we want to get? And I said, dude, Tim is the Lord. The guy seems great, good guy. And Rudy. And I just called him up, and that's how the band really started. And we started this as a live project. So it wasn't some big thing like, hey, let's cut a record, or, you know, this record label gave us whatever, 30 grand or 40 grand to go make a record, and it's like a put together kind of a thing. We just did it to play, have some fun, and we were all buddies, and that's really what it was in the beginning. And then we kind of, as the years rolled on, we kind of just started working on tunes here and there. Everybody has little home studios. I have a pretty good home studio at my place with a drum room and the whole 9 yards, and we just did it for the love.
And what are we looking at as far as this band goes? Is it something that we're going to see more releases out of? Will you ever tour? Well, I guess where can we see this thing going in the future, if at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Obviously, a lot of people have asked, me and the other guys that here the last month or two since the record has come out. I mean, we're already working on material. I mean, I and Tim especially are always working on things, separate and together, because, like I said, it is very easy these days to come up, with some cool demos or whatever you want to call them with home studios these days. And we both like just creating. It's not that hard. I'm not saying every song you write's going to be some masterpiece. I'm just saying just to write a cool song that we think is cool art is happening. And so we're doing that now. We hope we have another release, and we want to play live. Like I said, that's what the band was literally founded on, was playing live. And writing music came literally a year or more after we had done literally a grip of shows, like 20 shows together, and all of a sudden we're like, hey, why don't we maybe write a couple of tunes? So at the end of this year, 2019, we're hoping that our schedules loosen up. I mean, Night Ranger, I play with obviously Night Ranger now. They have a lot of shows. We have a tour with Sammy Hagar starting next week. That's like a 2.5, 3-week run. We got another tour with Foreigner, I think, coming up in the summer. And then we have Japan as well. So, I mean, I'm kind of locked up for the next 3 or so months, but we're hoping at the end of the year, the fourth quarter, we can get out and do some shows with this band and just continue creating music. If we could play live, great. But if not, we'd love to just put records out and create tunes, and hopefully people like them.
Do you have any expectations with the band, or is this just strictly a passion project, something you guys can do without having to have that added stress of trying to be the next, arena headlining band?
No, I mean, that's exactly it. Honestly, it was, like I said, it started as just friends getting together and jamming live. And if we can continue to do that and or create music together, that's really all it is. I mean, like I said, we motivation, no label, no anything to begin with. And, it's all about just having a good time together and writing some tunes. So, I mean, I just hope we just can continue, whether it's another year for the next record or a year and a half or 2 years. I mean, it's just about creating, and that's really it, honestly.
You talk about, how long you've been around and that you've been in with the same group of guys or, kind of friends with a lot of the guys and things like that since the 80s. Would you say that, the playing that you did 20 plus years ago versus the playing you're doing today, is it a lot easier to get your stuff out there and have a good time with it now, or is it more of a headache now and was easier then? I mean, how do you feel like that's evolved? With, like you said, everybody's got kind of the studios in their basement and things like that. Has that been good for you, bad for you, all that?
I think it's awesome. I think there's so much cool music out these days. I mean, whether it's metal or alternative or pop or, whatever. I mean, I was actually talking to one of my buddies today about Ghost because I was over with those guys. I was with the Metallica guys, and Ghost was opening for them a couple weeks ago in Lisbon, and I think they're an awesome band. And my buddy that I was talking to today, I mean, he turned me on to them on their first album. So this is before the second album. I think it had Monsters Clock on it and Zero Year or Year Zero or whatever, which was a great album. But, now they're obviously more commercial, more polished. You got a great management team behind them. But I think the stuff is great. And then he was saying, oh, yeah, but the guy that turned me on to the band, thinks that they're lame now because they're not, whatever. And I'm like, I think that's lame, So, I mean, I love music for whatever it is, whether it's pop, rock, metal. And I think that the advantages these days that people or younger people especially have to home studios and creating music is awesome. And I was always the guy back in the old days, back in the 1800s, right. When I had my local bands, and then even when I got into the bigger bands, I was still the guy that always kind of had the home studio. Back in the old days, it was like the 4-track recorder, then the 8-track recorder, and then 16-track, and then Pro Tools, and yada yada yada. But that was always me. I was always the guy that had that gear and was recording and trying to write songs and stuff. And I think it's fabulous. And I think that the outlets that people have, whether it's myself, like an established guy that's been around for a while, or younger kids with the internet and such. I think it's amazing. I think it's much easier, to be honest with you. And people say, oh, the music business is dead or this or that. I don't really agree with all that. People say you can't make any money and whatever. I don't know. I don't think Taylor Swift is worrying about money. I think she has enough downloads. You know what I mean?
Right.
A lot of I know heritage acts and stuff say things like that, but I think there's plenty of newer acts or fresher acts or whatever, younger people, younger guys in the game that are making plenty of money. And it is what it is, man. But I think it's great. I think all the advantages they have these days, I think are awesome. The internet and or recording tools and all that.
What about as a fan? It's funny you mentioned the band Ghost. I feel like I ask this question too much, but when we were kids, there was this mystique behind the rock stars. We had to buy the magazines, look stuff up. Did Jimmy Page really worship the devil? Blah blah blah. And today, that now you get access instead of the mystique, with the exception of a band like Ghost and maybe like Steel Panther, who play characters on stage. The mystique's kind of gone. As a fan, do you prefer the access or the mystique?
Yeah, great question again, and I mean that is so valid, and that was my thing, when I was a little kid. The first concert I was able to witness, my mom took me to. They're really music people. My dad and my mom loved the Rolling Stones and blah blah blah. But I got to see Queen, 1978. December 78, they played 3 shows at the Forum here in Los Angeles. I was like 7 years old.
Oh, man.
And, I knew the records in my mind because my parents were playing, Queen and Stones and things like that. But, I'd never been to a concert. You go to the Forum, it's like 19,000 people there. You're a little kid. You don't know what the hell's going on, but you're like, whoa, this is wild. And then the next year, I was able to see Kiss, believe it or not. So it was a Dynasty tour, 79. I think it was in November, and that was at the Anaheim Convention Center. And again, that was wild. I mean, I knew Kiss just from the records or hearing it, but, you go to the show and you're a little kid like that, you don't know what the hell's going on. But yeah, that mystique that you had back in the old days and then into the 80s and all that stuff where you didn't know what the set list was going to be, or you didn't know what the stage set was going to look like unless you got the, Cream magazine or Circus or whatever the magazine was at that time. And you saw these pictures of them jamming live, and you go, wow, look at all the amps in the background or whatever. I really think it's kind of sad a little bit, but it is what it is, that, like, say, Kiss, these days, and I've seen them like 4 times by chance on this last little tour, the end of the road tour, but, literally 20 minutes into the concert, you can go on YouTube, and some guy's already posted the opening, the intro and Detroit Rock City, which I guess that's fun for a lot of people, but it really does take out a lot of the mystery and the mystique and the this and that. So I really kind of think it's a bummer, but it is what it is these days, and it's been that way the last, I don't know, almost 15 or even 20 years almost, seems to me. But, I mean, recently, especially the last decade or so, and I wish it was more the other way, but I don't think we're going backwards, in my opinion.
Yeah, probably not.
It is funny you mentioned, know, how you can Google search something. I was born in November 79, and I just typed in Kiss Anaheim 1979. Literally, you went to that show on my birthday. The day I was born.
Oh.
I found out that quickly.
So I was like this little kid walking around there, whatever. I guess I was 8 then, or maybe I was still 7, I don't know. But, yeah, and you're just like looking around going, oh, my God, this is friggin' wild, whatever, 15,000 people there, So that was my introduction, Queen and then Kiss, and then it just went on from there. And here we are, whatever, 40 years later.
You've played with some of, the biggest persona in rock and roll throughout the years from the 80s on. And, Alice Cooper, Steven Adler, John Waite, Jack Blades, et cetera, et cetera. I guess the question is that as for you as a musician, playing with some of these big personas, how has it molded you as a professional musician? I
mean, it's been really cool. I mean, I think that I've been very fortunate and very lucky, more than even guys that have had their own bands that have been successful just because of all the experiences that I've been able to be involved in, and different personalities and slightly different musical dynamics. All the bands I play with are, in general rock-based, but, slightly different: commercial rock, harder rock, metal rock, maybe, more pop rock or classic rock, Alice Cooper, but, rock-based. But it's just been really cool to be able to work with the dynamics of all these different legendary, literally legendary, some people, and I commend them as well, and they're my brothers and my friends, have had great success, like with their own band, like whoever it may be, like Rat or something, or Warrant or Slash with Guns N' Roses, even though he's had many other projects after that. But a lot of guys have only played pretty much with 4 or 5 different dudes their whole careers, and that's, yes, of course they know other musicians, but that's all the interaction that they've had for decades, and which is awesome. Like I said, I commend them for having the success, and I think it's great. But I've been able to just move between all these different entities, and I think that that's very cool, and I've been very fortunate, and it's rad. It's really helped me a lot, just learning all the different material and just melding in and molding into different, camps and the way that they do business and stuff. But, like I said, my bottom line is I just try to do my best job, play my best and get along with people. And, that's really part of the game as well. It's not just all about, when you're a guy like me, kind of like a whatever, hired gun or whatever you want to call it, it's not just about being a great player. There's a lot of other elements involved. If it was just about being a great player, then the guy that went to, MI, that played 10 hours a day for 10 years in his bedroom would have every single gig, and that just is not how it works,
Is that kind of your persona? With you being involved with so many things, is that just kind of, has it kept your, I guess maybe freshness or your creativity juices flowing by just being involved with so many different styles and being involved with so many different, I guess maybe persona? Is that just kind of like your MO, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, I think I've now it's been so long when I talk about 2 decades or plus, actually, kind of being a professional musician, I guess is what they call it, but I call it having fun. But it's part of it. I don't even really think of it these days. I mean, back when I was starting out and really trying to, get into the professional scene, I mean, you're really trying hard and trying to do this and that. I mean, obviously I still work hard. You have to, but I mean, it's just very different, when you know a lot of people in the industry and you've been involved in a lot of different projects and you have a lot of people on your side or within your inner circle in a way. I mean, just to get a call from whatever, whether it's Alice or Slash or one day, I just got a call when I helped Skid Row out for almost 2 years before I joined Alice. You have these guys calling you on a Thursday. I was literally sitting at my house on a Thursday morning, and they're like, "Hey, we need. Can you help us play? We need a guitar player. Can you help us?" I go, "Yeah, sure, of course, dude. Great. All cool. When?" And they go, "Tomorrow." And I'm like, "What?" It's like less than 24 hours. They go, "We'll buy you a plane ticket for tomorrow morning." And then I have to, you learn 17 songs in whatever 12 hours, and you go and play. But it's weird things have happened. But I don't know. Probably not answering your question exactly directly, but I don't know. Like I said, I've been very fortunate, very blessed to be a part of all these guys, legends, careers, and like I said, I just do my best, and I like to have fun while playing, and that's really what it's all about, and serving the band or serving the song, and not trying to, overstep any of the other bullshit,
Good for
which
you,
some
man.
people maybe do, or get caught up in a bunch of bullshit. I try not to deal with that.
All right. Good for you. Good for you.
What's more difficult, or maybe not difficult, is not the right word, but I mean, do you prefer kind of creating, or do you like stepping in there and just playing and not having to have that added stress of coming up with, a riff or whatever, a solo?
Yeah, dude, I both sides completely are equal with me, man. Because, like I said, I mean, I was always the guy back when I was a little kid. I don't know exactly, maybe 15 years old or something like that, 14 or 15, when my mom got me the little 4-track cassette recorder. I was trying to have a little drum machine and all that bullshit. So I was always the guy creating things. And, now, like I said, now I have a pretty good studio at my house. So I love that element. It's so cool to me. Just if you have a riff and then I start building it up and you make it, all of a sudden it's a, pretty cool song. Shit, some songs are cooler than others. I love that element. But then, honest to God, man, when I hit the stage with whatever band, obviously Night Ranger now, intro tapes on, I mean, it is that is really it, man. I mean, it's that hour and a half, we usually play 90-minute sets with Night Ranger, for instance. I mean, it's a complete blast, and it brings me back to, when I was literally 15, 16, 17 years old, trying to get started playing at the clubs and all that bullshit. I mean, it's really a thrill. So both sides to me. I know some guys are really like, oh, I want to shy away from playing live. I don't like it. I like the studio element. I love them both, man. I got to tell you the truth.
Do you ever, especially with bands like Alice and Night Ranger, where you've been there for an extended period of time, how long does it take to feel a part of the band, or do you always just kind of feel like the other guy or the new guy?
It takes a little bit of time, usually, I mean, you do the first year or so, it's like the first year run or the first tour or whatever it may be. You're kind of always kind of feel everything out, even if you know some of the guys in the band or you know some of the crew guys, which is usually the case. In all the projects I've kind of been involved in, you know somebody. But I try not to even. I take everything so lightly, to be honest with you. I don't even get stressed out on it. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm completely laid back, I don't give a shit. But I mean, I just try to have a good time, like I said, and serve the songs or serve the band that because I mean you're hired technically, and usually it works out good, because like I said, I mean I just try to have a laid back attitude, and I do my best, and I think everybody understands that. I think, and that's why I'm still here 20 plus years later playing with these different artists.
That kind of is an interesting segue. The first time I saw you play live, I took my son to his first concert on the with Alice Cooper, the Along Came a Spider tour, and it was in Davenport, Iowa, at the Adler Theater. And I remember my son at the time, he was 10 years old, and he turns to me as you guys were playing, and he goes, Dad, that guitar player's having a lot of fun down there. Your energy on stage is when you see Keri Kelli live, you're bringing a lot of energy to it. How do you do that every single night that you have to play live, play with that kind of energy that you bring to the crowd?
I know, I mean, that's really it. I mean, I do, when we're playing live, I want to have fun. That's really it. And I want, hopefully, the audience to have fun and see that we're interacting with them. I don't know how I do it. Honestly, I don't. It's literally when the intro tape is on, we come from, come from the backstage, you got to go, your outfit's on, the whole 9 yards, sometimes meet and greets before the show. But, I mean, I just do whatever I do, and I don't know how I do it or why I do it. Maybe it's just, harking back to when I did see those concerts, like, the Queen and the Kiss, and then later on when I witnessed, I did see Alice back in '84, but, like Iron Maiden, Scorpions back in the '80s, Van Halen, all that. I mean, these guys were like gods to me when you were a little kid, 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. And I what they gave me, I just, soaked it in, and I just try to give back when I play. I don't even know what I'm doing, but I'm doing something. So it is what it is, man. I don't even know. But I'm glad people are having a good time.
You impressed a 10-year-old at the time, and I was telling him that I was interviewing tonight. He's now, encroaching 21 years old, and he's like, "You got to be kidding me!"
Man.
Yeah, he was so excited that we got to actually interview tonight. But I got one more question for you. It's kind of like a two-sided question. So I know we've taken a lot of your time, but okay. So
all good, brother.
Yeah, 2008. You were in another super group, and one of my favorite albums was Saints of the Underground. And what an excellent album, killer album that was. 10 plus years ago. I guess maybe the question I have, obviously, Janie's not around anymore. But that being said, was there any type of thought with that band if Janie didn't pass away, Janie Lane, I'm saying, was that band going to make more material than the one-off album that they made?
Probably. That was another thing that just kind of came about because of Janie and I would write a lot of songs. The same thing, like he didn't have a studio at his house, so he would just kind of write some things on acoustic guitar, or have some pieces, or I'd have some things and I'd email them to him or whatever. And so he was always coming over to the house, and we were working on songs, and it was cool because he played great drums. He was a drummer before he was even a singer back in the old days. So we could write a song or two just in a 2 or 3 hour period. He'd go in the room and play the drums, and then I'd play bass and guitars, and he'd do the vocals and stuff. So it was very simple and easy, just to get a good demo down. So we had a lot of songs sitting around, and that was another thing that, again, some of the songs were already pre-written because they were just sitting around. Some songs we actually wrote once somebody approached us and said, "Hey, we'd like you guys to do a record," or whatever. But I would assume that we would have done another record. I mean, we still have, or there still are, probably 20 or more tunes that we have, Janie and I, that are, some of them are complete and some of them are like half complete. Some of them are just on acoustic guitar, sitting around.
Wow.
So it's really, it is what it is at this point, but I would definitely think that we would have continued because we were always writing stuff, from like the late 90s, until, 2000 and whatever it was, 9 or 10, we were always working on material. So I would assume that we would have definitely kept going.
Okay, one last question. Dad's Porno Mag, one of my favorite albums that you released with Ryan Roxy. Will we ever see the day when you and Ryan Roxy will work together again on that project, or is that dead and gone and never coming back?
Maybe, that's funny because we've talked about that like several times over the last, whatever, it's been like 15 years or more. We were actually talking about something like even like a few years ago, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, about doing something, but it just never happened. I mean, obviously he's been doing Alice now the last 5 or 6 years, and so half the year's kind of cut out on that. And then, the other fact, but I mean, once again, the home studio dealio, which makes it easier, but, he lives in Sweden now, so that's kind of a little bit difficult, but we could still record some stuff. So I kind of like that. Maybe I'll revisit that with him, actually. I think that'd be a cool idea. So it would be probably pretty easy to do, especially these days.
Well, I think you should do it because it was really cool, and I really loved it, and I think you guys should make a return on it. So that's the last thing I'm going to say. But before we let you go for the evening, is there anything else that you would like to plug or promote?
No, man. I mean, we covered a lot of stuff. I mean, I just think that, hopefully the people will check out the new record, a new Revenge record, and everybody did an incredible job, I think, on the record. I mean, Tim sounds amazing. I think a lot of people are, going to be surprised if they haven't heard any of the tunes yet, that it's not what people think of him as a straight kind of metal Judas Priest kind of singer. Obviously, Rudy's a legend. You know, James as well has been in the business for 30 plus years, the Kingdom Come, and then obviously, 21 years or whatever it was, 22 years of Scorpions. Excellent job by everybody, and we got that. And like I said, Night Ranger, we have the Night Ranger stuff going on this whole summer. Tour starting next week with Sammy, which is going to be awesome because you got Sammy and Mike Anthony on bass, and Jason on drums, and Vic on guitars. Good old Vic is awesome, dude. You know, he was in the Bus Boys back in the old days, man. He's killer, dude. So that tour is happening. Then the little Foreigner run, and then we have the Japanese date. So it's all happening. It just keeps going, man. It's perpetual, never ending.
Fantastic. So this is how this is going to work. We have a couple interview episodes before yours that we're going to release. I'm thinking, Bob, what, about 2-3 weeks we'll have yours up and running?
Right.
So when it's edited and everything, I will email you the attachment, and if you could share it to any social media that you're a part of or anything, that'd be fantastic.
I'll do it, my man. Hey, thank you guys, man. I appreciate it.
Hey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Cool, man. Take it easy, guys. Bye-bye.
When the black is rough and the sky is choppy, no power in the verse can stop me. Knowing you can't win for trying, man. I'll be holding your arms, I'll be holding your hand. I'll be mooning the blue sun and earth, and I'm good. I'll be saving the day like you knew I would. When the black is rough and the sky